Chapter 3. Our Mother Awakes at the Birth of Life. April-Mei. I woke at the edge of a large body of water. The water was a creek not far from home, and the sky was clear without the slightest breath. There wasn't one bird, not even a redwing, nothing to distract me, except that the water, smooth as glass, had this tempting gloss and incorruptible sheen. It made me want to reach it, made me want to toss a stone and touch the stillness with my longing, which was longing both for that stillness itself and for something else more lively to happen. I didn't want to trouble the water, simply to introduce a few wrinkles for fun. But I chose not to toss. Just sat there, part of the immense quiet. I'd heard of such stillness before. There were legends. There were stories I knew from childhood. One I remember hearing read from a book, The Birth of Life and Other Stories by Marsh, who was this gorgeous friend of my mother's, and also an amateur pastry chef. Marla often visited our house with her just desserts, gracious curves, and perfect complexion. Once, I must have been 12, it was summertime out by the old oak. We ate red velvet cake and listened quietly as Marla Conti read the title story from her book. I tried desperately to follow the gist of her narrative, which told the tale of life itself coming into existence. In the story, a girl lay on her back somewhere in Africa. She lay there for 7 years, staring up at the liquid blue sky. Not one bird there either. No savanna breeze, no elephants or lions. Just utter stillness. It was like the stillness for me this morning. Why that girl in Africa lay waiting for life to be born, I don't really know, because I wasn't fully listening. She lay on her back, staring at the empty blue, waiting for a change. Part of me, yes, was curious to see what that change would be, but 7 years is a long time to wait. Besides, the whole time I sat listening, my mind kept wandering and wandering. My thoughts drifted to Marla, the writer, her exotic clothes and rebellious smile. Marla Conti was just so beautiful. Roses wanted her in vases. I knew she was born in Africa, had been to Italy, Spain, San Francisco, was a tennis player who once beat Althea Gibson 6'3", 6'4", was an author, a pilot, an autodidact, a baker of pies, a quoter of Ida B. Wells. But more importantly, she was a destroyer of wrongs, a replenisher of blooms for the people. Mama called her an activist, but I saw her as an idol. She was wild, the way a storm is wild, and dangerous as a heart that must have its way. Whatever it was about her that I could not see, I wanted to see. That imagination stole me away from her narrative. It wasn't so much the fiction she'd written that I was interested in, but the mystery of herself. Sad to say, Marla left our house early evening, before I'd had my fill. She turned and waved, her black hair lit by the sun, and died a week later in a boating accident. Another depiction of absolute stillness came from my father back when he was alive. "It's true," my father explained. "The moment before life there was stillness like you wouldn't believe. No one could lift a finger or even drop a name. It was such a stillness it would make a stone embedded in the ground the winner of a race by 500 miles. Daddy thought that was a pretty clever description. Then out of that stillness, without any brouhaha, life came into being. Brouhaha. I liked how he said things. Well, sometimes I did, when his mood was good. And Daddy was beautiful too in his own way, not like Marla Conti, more how a cow or a freshly baked dinner roll is beautiful. Though who would ever say such a thing? Well, I would. A cow is a remarkable creature, and a fresh dinner roll straight from the oven can be a near-perfect addition to any meal. Anyway, his story really got me thinking. Life itself, so my father told it, was born June 3rd, same date as today. The birth of life, however, came upon the first June 3rd in the history of Junes. It was the first day in the history of days, and the first in the history of firsts. That it came on the 3rd only added to its incredibleness. It never concerned me that life was born on the 3rd of June. What interested me was that it was born at all. Who thinks of life as being born, like a baby deer or bunny? Also, what intrigued me is that according to my father, life was born before our universe, preceding the appearance of matter. How was that even possible? It's not something you learn in school. In school you learn that the origin of life came from non-living matter together with chemical reactions, something called abiogenesis. Conventional schooling explains you've got to have physical stuff before you can have life. How could you have a frog without there being material to make the frog, or a tree without there first being the stuff of trees? In my father's narrative, however, which he told my brother Theo and me many times, life came first. It was born when no one was looking, not even that girl on her back staring at the African sky. It was born before the sky, before electrons and atoms, before stars and light, before frogs, jellyfish, and even horseshoe crabs, which have been around forever. As a child, this fascinated me. It was as if life drew the curtains and with a casual voice announced, "I am here, and all I need's a world now. So let's conjure up some props. Let's build a set and get on with it." Somehow, my father's narrative kept my attention. I wasn't distracted, as happened with the romantic Marla Conti, who just made me want to be like her, to wear unusual clothes and entice the world with a smile. With Daddy's words, I waited as he built the suspense. I was patient, more so than Theo, I think. Then, on the chosen day, June the 3rd, life appeared. "And that's when all our problems began," said my father to Theo and me as we stood in the sawdust of his shop early evening. "Isn't it supposed to be something bigger?" I remember asking. "A bigger problem?" "No, bigger like a celebration with food and music." "You think life is a party?" "Not a party," I said. "Just, if life is born, you'd think there'd be excitement about it." "Wrong." "It was a very private moment," my father explained. "With life comes a lot of pain and difficulty, and that's not something you want to announce. But I do suppose it did make for some good stuff, too." "What good stuff?" I asked. "Look around you." "Tools?" I said, because that's what I saw, how he had arranged them so neatly. "Not tools. Rocks, trees, dragonflies. None of it could have been without first there was life." Many and many a year ago, my father began the story this way, I think due to his obsession with Edgar Allan Poe. Many and many a year ago, a.k.a. in the beginning, life left the womb and entered the sleepy stillness. "What room?" I asked, an 11-year-old girl needing things straight. "Womb, not room," my father said. And without further explanation, he continued his story. This time we were outside. Summer. No school. I looked over at Theo, hoping he would complain to back me up. But I don't even know if he was listening. I nudged him and he grunted. When I was young, growing in the country, I never thought much about life as something that could be born the way a bird pokes its way from an egg, though it filled my imagination when my father told it. In my father's story, before time and space existed, life was trapped inside, with nowhere to go. I tried to get him to tell me inside what, but he wouldn't say. Or maybe he didn't know, but you have to know if you're telling a story. The best I could get from him was a riddle. "What's the opposite of being in a trap?" "Being free," I said. "No one's really free," he said. "We are prisoners to how we think and feel. The opposite of being trapped is being part of something." "I don't get it. Trap? Part?" It's all in how you look at things. Really, not that difficult. When you feel trapped, you are no part of anything else. When you feel a part of things, you are no longer trapped. How do you not get it? "Okay," I sighed. My father told Theo and me that before it came out, life was trapped inside. It wanted to be part of something else. "Like the could-be gifts in your hands if you keep them closed," he said. I looked at Theo, who was looking at ants zigzagging across the dirt. "Those gifts are stuck in your fist until you open them. Now this is important, so pay attention. Life, before it was born, was like that. It needed to open up. It needed to come out. So it made room for itself out of its own nature, the way your hand makes room by opening from a fist." Theo and I looked as my father slowly unfurled his fingers and exposed his palm. It took forever. He went so slow. And then, there it was, his open hand with its calluses and blood blisters. Life called this room the universe, and the universe seemed empty at first, like your own open hand. But it isn't really empty, not yours at least, because it contains infinite possibilities. Those possibilities are your gifts to give the world. It wasn't often my father had something hopeful to say. I think he was trying especially hard with this version of his story. I think he was trying to encourage us, to give us something to live for, as if we were non-stop complaining to him about our beleaguered futures. "Now you heard what I said now, didn't you? You're listening to me?" "We're listening," I said. "Heard what?" "What I said about your gifts." "Okay," I said. "Theo?" "What?" "Making sure you're with me and not off with those ants." "I'm here, Daddy," my brother said. "There's nothing in my hand." "That's just how you choose to see things," said my father. Life saw things differently. Into an empty universe, poof, matter appeared. "What do you mean, poof?" I asked. "How can stuff poof out of nowhere?" "It didn't poof out of nowhere," explained my father. "It poofed out of life. How can you not see?" But I didn't see, not back then. He was just saying it. "There's a ton of stuff inside life," said my father. "I've told you this before. Trees are in life, splinters, pain, dragonflies. You both love dragonflies." He was really trying to be positive. "Who likes pain?" I said. "Nobody does." My father didn't comment. I may have struck a nerve, and so his story ended. He just walked away. Then later, while out walking in the woods alone with my father, his good mood had returned. He explained, because he really loved to explain things, that in ferns and owls and mushrooms, you could easily see the source of life at work. It's right there in the growth. It's visible in every living being and in their dying too. But with other stuff like a common pebble, and my father held one between his finger and thumb to make his point, life is obscured. "What's obscured mean?" I asked. "That something is hiding? Can you see life in this little stone?" I looked, but didn't really know what I was looking for. In a pebble, life works behind the scenes, like Miss Easter at your dance recital. You're on stage with the other kids, and she's backstage, making sure it all goes according to plan. My father rolled the pebble between his fingers like a magician with a coin. He probably had it in his pocket all along and brought it out to support his claim that it's hard to see life in a stone. No pun intended. But it didn't much matter to life how apparent it was, so long as the universe felt its imperishable presence and support. "And you," my father said, looking not at me but past me to the trees beyond, "you like this stone. You're lucky. I count you among the luckiest. You will always feel life's presence and support." Interesting if you think about it. One, that life could be born, and two, that it preceded our universe, that it seeded our universe. I like that better. Those stories I'd encountered when young allowed my imagination to entertain the idea, which I played with, tossing the notion around like a beanbag, flying it like a kite, rolling it back and forth like a marble, then shooting it across the rug to clink with other things, time and time again. After a while, though, I seemed to lose interest. 13, 14, I put the idea of life in a box for safekeeping, and pretty soon I completely forgot about the box, went on with my own adamant self and my juvenile ideas, became a teenage activist for all that needed fixing: racism, poverty, women's rights. Tried to stop pollution with some well-placed criticisms, and with songs I played on my guitar. Tried to stop food waste with help from expository photographs. Field waste, photograph number 12. Unused food, photograph number 27. Hungry child of God, photographs 33 through 36. You wouldn't believe how many perfectly good tomatoes rot on the ground. I ate only bruised and discarded produce for 6 months. Got Theo to do it too. He lasted 2 days, as he was never much of a joiner. Then I gave up the cause. I don't know why. Took up running, which magically did away with my walking limp. Took up acting, The Cherry Orchard, Othello. Kissed Othello, who was really Lincoln. Not Abe Lincoln, Lincoln Turner, behind the school after play practice one day when no one was looking. Lincoln went to the black high school, but everyone agreed that he was the best. I kissed Pierce in his silver Chevy, too. Wasn't supposed to happen, but we were drunk on tequila from my friend Hetty. Tried peyote behind the water treatment facility. Gift from the gods, straight from Mexico. It was a vacant lot there, with shards of glass and Johnson grass everywhere, and we all met in the designated place to do whatever was a good or bad suggestion. Once even Paige's mother, Rita, joined us to get away from her husband, who we all agreed was more controlling than a volume dial. And whenever I got home, my mother, she'd be up, waiting with something sweet and smooth to say, like custard, even if I didn't want it. And the days went on. I was becoming someone, if not quite my own self. I said a few things I meant to say, and some things I had no business saying out loud. Felt bad, felt good, felt bad again, good, bad. Lost count of all the things that were wrong with me. Soon I lost track of all the good as well. There are 3 types of people in the world, my father said before he died. Those who can do it, and those who can't. I suppose he lost count too. Later I saw a blind man carry a cripple, which made an impression. Read Nietzsche, Shakespeare some more, James A.G., Ain't I a Woman by Sojourner Truth, found sermons in stones, and good in everything. Finished high school in May. I was not much past 18 years old, A in advanced biology, A in photojournalism, ran a half marathon in 1:27. Gave a homeless woman my running shoes, studied 2 years at RISD, began baking, gave a homeless man my sandwiches and fresh-baked breads and biscuits, found work taking photographs of food and other still lifes, protested for real fair housing and for desegregating the schools, hiked the Appalachian Trail, planted trees, marshes, broccoli, beans, met Micah in a greenhouse, walked with him through a marsh collecting seeds, listened to the mosquitoes whine and the clouds shift in the sky. If you listen, it's like a silent movie whose dialogue is the inner thoughts of everything. The dialogue comes alive, the story with it, the more you listen. And the more you listen, the more you feel that you are a part of it all. Come summertime, I watched flowers turn to butterflies, and then back to flowers, and to butterflies again. So nice. To look and see, to be optimistic about the world, hopeful, to treat everything, everyone with the utmost, the easiest, the most friendly respect. That's how I want to be with the world, I thought. Days passed doing just that, and I realized that the world is full, and I don't know the half of it, not the quarter, not the nickel even. Still, it was at that very moment I chose to get married. We chose. There is lots to learn about love, and Micah and I would start on a Friday in May. I was a few months past 22. Soon after I went alone to the funeral of a friend who had drowned, like the beautiful Marla Conti, in a boating accident. What is it with people and boats and dying? It was 7 days after my marriage. The mourners filed away sadly. I walked over to the parents, but they were talking to someone else. So much wind. I remember. May 23rd. The wind and the parents, and a nearby tree that I knew Micah would know the name of. He knew the name, but I didn't. Truth is, I had nothing to say, nothing to add, nothing to give. I wish that I had something. I wish I'd had a bit of hope, a hug, something, anything, but I was too afraid, newly married, without a word to give. I turned and walked away. And then More days, June days, baking days, eating days, days making plans, July, August, September days. Got pregnant, super big. Got really tired, queasy. My back hurt like you wouldn't believe. Spent time near the water listening to waves, taking pictures. Got worried about the birth, super worried. Or maybe it was the world he would come into. He? I knew it intuitively, by the way my baby held himself inside me, by the way he listened to me complain without once trying to improve me. So accepting. What a good person he would be. And I could get riled up about things, the many wrongs of the world. And it wasn't just pollution. It wasn't only poverty or racism or too much carbon, which Micah said back in the 60s. He said carbon was going to be the greatest environmental disaster for the world one day. But that just didn't make sense to me. Carbon so important to life. The real problem to me was too much one-sidedness. It was the exclusion of other perspectives. How can you think right if your segregated, self-interested life is all you know? How can you not see there are others in the room? How can you not hear that their story is part yours? The greatest problems in the world would come not from carbon, but from a failure to recognize our fundamental unity. The greatest setbacks would come from our failure to understand the unifying principle inherent in life. I began to think lots about life, the birth of life in our world. I'd heard stories as a child, and for some reason now it was important to me again. So I tried to remember those stories. What is it that gives us the very first experience of life? I searched for hints of life's birth, like first memories from the universe or cosmic memories in me. I searched when cutting apples, when collecting kindling, when feeling the growing baby inside me. A hint, a hint. I just needed a hint. And early morning today it was, I actually got somewhere with all my thinking. Sometimes clouds drift through the sky, sometimes thoughts drift through the mind, and other times a person can know something for sure, can get a grip on reality. We humans, for instance, I knew from experience. We run on the pavement, we walk through the woods, sweeping away branches, snapping twigs. Sometimes late morning we stagger through the front door with all the necessary ingredients. We say to our spouse, "I've got something to do." We make panna cotta for a friend. We drive through the rain to deliver it because our friend, she's done so much for us. Sure, we're hot. We're cold, we're cranky, we're pregnant, and always tired, just so tired of waiting. Still, we keep driving. Later at home, the phone rings. We talk to our mother, looking out the window at the crazy, blazing, amazing sky. Things are clearing up, we think, but also they're a mess. We cry after she calls, and our husband doesn't know what's the matter. But it's that we've heard such loneliness in our mother's voice. Her husband, our father, having taken his life years back. God, we were barely 14 then ourselves, and her son, our brother, so much like his dad, our father. Always trapped between anger and tears. And all the while she is good, such a good person, really. Our mother is good and stoic, not wanting to trouble us with her griefs. And what can we do to make things right? what can any of us do for others? We imagine a better world for our mother. We imagine a better world for a newborn child, a beautiful world for our firstborn child, for every child, a world without pain or sorrow But we know it's not possible. Sorrow is not the problem. We are. Our husband says this to us not because he thinks we are bad, but because he knows that we, like our mother, are good, so good in our heart and strong enough to see. So we look at our sadness. We follow it as it makes its way toward night, and the world becomes sad for us because, yes, we've infected it with heavy-heartedness. And we say, don't be sad, world. We say, it's not you, it's us. And the world is relieved. It never wanted to be sad anyway. It just wanted to be itself, a world of possibilities. So next day, yesterday, we bake a loaf of gingerbread, because that is the most possible thing we can think of. And in the late afternoon we bring the bread to our mother. She'll like it, we think. She'll like that we care. Deep down, we're all mothers, we think. We grow life inside us. It's true. We are mothers, fathers, sisters, brothers, sons and daughters, cousins, all. And there she is at the door when we knock. Her hair is loose and turning gray. We offer bread like wishes. We offer hope like care. We open ourselves a bit further to what happens around us. And all at once, there it is. Something we are looking for. All at once, there is the hint of something much bigger than ourselves alone. Oh, what a great hint, intensifying inside us. What are we supposed to make of it? What am I supposed to? Which is when I awoke at the edge of the creek, not far from home. I awoke to the stillness and the imminent birth, and it wasn't even the idea of life's birthday taken from stories. It wasn't the memory of life from that long-ago box. And it wasn't a made-up thing either, like a face concocted from eyeliner and rouge. It was the real thing, I swear it. Early this morning, June 3rd, I sat at the edge, witnessing the radical, actual groundwork for the birth of life. Pretty amazing, wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, right, I can almost hear you say. Can sense your sarcastic doubt. Life wouldn't be born at the edge of some marshy creek. Besides, how's there a marsh and a creek anyway? Doesn't that imply life already? To which I respond, what I woke to was potential only. The creek was potential. The marsh, a potential marsh. Everything was just so poetical. Poetical. Blank verse or free. Potential, I meant to say. It was potential. I was potential too. If you were nothing but potential, I hear you argue, then you weren't there to see it happen. Potential is not actual. To which I have this to say. Potential is the actual that is hidden from view. It's stored in possibility, like in some back room that you don't know is there. And it's not because you're blind that you don't know it's there, more because your thinking goes in other directions. You, I gently suggest, simply choose not to know. You scoff at this, countering. I go where the facts go. I know what is provable. Of course you would say such a thing. To which I come back with this winning line. The proof is in the pudding. And I like saying that, as pudding is a favorite of mine, especially butterscotch. Well, this could go on for hours. Maybe we should debate it some more, you and I. You telling me that you need scientific evidence, not pudding, and me trying to convince you with emotional adamancy. I swear, I say, I swear, I cross my heart. There was this genius thought, I explain. It was a possible body of water with the face of spring. It was a possible warm June morning, the agreeable 3rd. It was a widely possible marsh, grasses at the edge of the water. It was a highly possible sun and a gently possible breeze. And there was the possibility of someone, too. I was that possibility. And I awoke and saw how everything possible could make itself known in the universe the minute life is born. But life must come first. It supports everything. Without life, nothing can be. I hear you sigh. I see you shaking your head with a smug look on your face. You, of course, think that the earth and I were there all along, and that I'm just telling a story for entertainment. You'd probably like to explain, trying not to patronize, that scientists know when life began. It began on the earth 3.8 billion years ago. It began as microscopic organisms that left carbon clues of themselves in rocks. You would love to educate me, to set me straight, to set my feeble mind straight about RNA and catalysts, reminding me that life emerged out of the long spinning earth, and only slowly did it evolve into marsh grasses and turtles and my human form. Well, sorry to break it to you. There is a different way to see, and I saw it this morning when I awoke at the edge of a most possible marsh. And what is the harm in accommodating my view, which isn't trying to override yours, only expand it with added experience? Truth is, the world wasn't anywhere out. Not yet. The world was in life, and I inside the world, like one of those nesting dolls. Or if you prefer, I was inside life, and the world inside me. It doesn't matter who most was in. What matters is that there was no out yet. That's the experience I had. And I'm not backing down, not going to deny it. And if you want to question my way of seeing, I'll shrug you off and suggest that the truth is rarely what you in your stubbornness claim it to be. Very often, the truth is something you have not yet imagined. And with that in mind, imagine what it must have felt like for me to wake on that first morning, June 3rd, not far from home. I woke wanting to exist, and at the same time I knew that there simply was no time or place for me yet. That's brutal. It's harsh. Imagine, if you can, how I felt. Imagine that you are someone who wants to be. You want to take place. You want to grow and change and make delicious things like coconut cream pie. And you do not want to stand still doing nothing with your life. You don't want to drink frozen daiquiris and get drunk and kill spiders. You don't want to hurt anyone. You don't want to do stupid things any longer. You want to be smart, to come to your senses even more, to be a person who helps others on earth. And imagine wanting to do all that, but there's no way it can happen, because life does not exist. There's no such thing as life or earth, no such thing as spiders or coffee or fresh-baked bread. Imagine that life and the world and bread are simply tucked away wishes. And who holds those wishes while we all wait for them to come true? It doesn't really matter. What matters more is that those wishes are inside and they cannot get out. There is only waiting and hoping it will happen soon. Crazy, isn't it? So how does that wish ever become real? How did life come into existence? That's the problem I faced this morning, the 3rd of June. That was the issue confronting me when I awoke. It was amazing, this experience at the edge of the creek. I felt breathlessness, and what must have been an absolute 0 temperature, but without the chill. I didn't shiver in the slightest, didn't grumble or groan to break the utter peace. And as much as I tried to discount my perception, I couldn't. I kept returning to what my father had told me and my brother years back. I recalled his bizarre tales and all those creation myths I'd read in my childhood books. In the beginning, God. In the beginning, coyote. In the beginning, warmth. In the beginning, light. In the beginning, wind, wishes, wonder, words. And the more I went back to the things I'd learned, the more certain I became of my experience at the edge of the creek. This was, no doubt, a retelling of the birth of life. Now, however, the birth occurred right here, upon the earth itself, so to make it easier to understand. Ingenious, really. I was witness to something no one had ever witnessed. Nothing special about me, though. Any other person up for the task could have had their own similar experience. Pretty incredible if you think about it. I wanted to shout the fact to the heavens. I wanted to sing it as a song. I wanted to tell my husband, too, as he is interested in the world, how it came to be and where it is going. Plus, he enjoys the things I tell him, except for the time I had to give him the news that Abel, our dog, had been hit by a car. That upset Micah, like he was a glass full of water being knocked over, draining onto the floor. When I told him about our pup, I saw the joy of life briefly leave his face. But still, what an amazing husband he is. Always enough joy for me, a good note on my tongue, and good taste in my mouth, a hunk, too. I mean, where'd he get those muscles from? It's not like he lifts weight to sculpt his deltoids and gluteus maximus. But there they are, for my benefit. And what a revelation it was for me that this June morning, so still and quiet, so full of hope and promise, was also for my benefit. Though not for me alone, for others as well. The way I saw it, the stillness I awoke to, was a sacred message, sacred as in something not to ignore, something instead to welcome with open arms, to embrace with an imagined hug, only because a physical hug wasn't permitted yet, something to hold inside, to sit with for a while, and maybe amend myself toward. That reminds me. I remember a different situation where I had to amend myself.
It happened about a week ago when I received a letter from Sula. I hadn't seen her since 9th grade. She didn't go to my school, but we were indisputable sisters. 11, 12, 13. We used to spend our days together. Anyway, it was a stamped and mailed letter with a 2x3 glossy photo. I read that letter all afternoon, reflecting on the time we'd shared growing up. We used to ride bikes into town to get a grape knee-high. Then we'd sip and watch the sailboats out on the bay, talking boys or the best place to swim and not get stung by sea nettles. We'd stay up late into the night, out under the stars looking for comets and listening to the frogs. Sula loved frogs, how wet they felt and squishy, how gently you had to hold them to let them know they were safe. Later, we tasted rum for the first time, sitting among the loblollies, sharing spirits with a few saplings. Do saplings get drunk, we wondered. And once, I remember it with increasing affection, sitting in her room, hearing the rumble of the garbage collection heading to dump its load in the sea. It was then that Sula said to me she wanted to throw everything away and start over, fill the ocean with her mess. But her room had so little in it. There was her bed, neatly made, and a wobbly desk with a chair, some books and magazines, and a box filled with singles of all her favorite songs, even though she had nothing to play them on. I held up some piece of crumpled paper from the floor, saying, "You mean this?" And she took it and uncrumpled it and said, "Just something dumb I was thinking." She didn't want me to read it, but I read it anyway. "I wish I was white," she'd written and crumpled, and I crumpled it again, and she took the paper from me, throwing it into the garbage, which was a good place for that paper, but not for her color, and never herself or her soul. And is that what she meant, I wonder? Did she want to throw herself away and start over? We didn't talk about it further, never came up again, and soon my friend was gone. That was a long time ago. So much has changed, but also so much hasn't, not when you consider how we treat one another, how many among us would rather erase certain others than love them. Why? And as I read Sula's words and stared at her picture, now 26 years old, now more beautiful than ever, it was as if I was sitting in a room with my friend again. We adjusted ourselves to each other in the thoughtfulness of the space. I saw her, she saw me. We spoke to each other through our newfound connection. We heard each other through the dialogue of our shared differences. And those many differences brought us closer together the more we interacted, even if it was only me looking at her photograph, remembering and imagining. And so, with this morning's stillness, June 3rd, with the more sacred message this morning, I sat as if in a room not with Sula, but with God, imagining rapport. We sipped emptiness instead of grape knee-highs. We shared nothingness, waiting peacefully for something wonderful, as I amended myself toward the prime mover, as perhaps even God amended himself toward me. And God said to me in my imagination, "Did you just call me the prime mover?" I did, but you're also the prime suspect. And did you also say amening yourself, as in
Amen to that.
No, I said amending with a D, as in amendment. And God nodded, laughing at the mishearing. God said, Are you amended a bit, then? I am, a little, I think. I'm in a good place, better than I was last night. Last night, I just wanted to cry. You didn't cry, though. You went outside, you took a walk. You went to the water's edge like it was the edge of the world. Took your green sleeping bag. Didn't tell Micah. Micah's a good man in my book. You have books where you live? I wanted to ask, but didn't. Instead, I said, He is good. And I did go. I didn't want to wake him. He'll understand. It was warm last night. So, you're ready for what's to come? Said God. And I, amazed to actually be part of this conversation, said to God through the strange cradle of a voice, I am, I said. Whatever it is, I'm ready for it. And how about you? God only shrugged. It was a kindly shrug that made the spiritual presence seem all the more familiar. And we both agreed that amending was good, and that readiness was not a color, but that it should be something close to purple, though probably better if the color were totally new. We were excited for the new color of readiness, for the advent of life and colors, birds, ecosystems, coffee too, butterscotch pudding, buttermilk biscuits with strawberry jam. Just so excited, yes. And then I must have closed my eyes as everything went dark.